Hey guys, so I wanted to do a video talking about this latest crazy thing that's going on, which is Ye praising Hitler. It's kind of crazy because literally like a week ago, or even like a few days ago, people would have thought that this was absolutely crazy, that anyone would praise Hitler. And I know Ye's been kind of barking up that tree a little bit here lately, but it's still kind of crazy that he just kind of came out this flamboyant with it. So I want to just go through this from a Stoic perspective and see how a Stoic would react to such a thing, or how a Stoic would think about such a thing. And so I'm going to use kind of my own thoughts on it, but I'm also going to refer to a tweet that Donald Robertson actually put out, which is pretty accurate. Like, I really agree with this. I love this quote, this tweet rather, from Donald Robertson. But so let me get into that. But let me just start by I got this article from The Hill, so that's what I'm going to use. I did watch the videos of him actually saying these things, and this article does seem to represent, at least the quotes of what he said, seems to be accurate. So this is kind of just a random article that I chose to use. But let's go through some of this and maybe dissect what a lot of this means. So from the show, he said, and I quote, "Well, I see good things about Hitler also. I love everyone. Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler." So obviously everyone freaked out that he said something like this. And it's very complicated, some of the stuff, because there's a little bit of truth in this, obviously, but it's mostly obviously just trash. And I'm actually going to open up Donald Robertson's tweet here, because I can't say it better than him for this particular thing, because he said this really well. So let me just read this quote here by Donald Robertson. He said, "I guess Adolf Hitler had, quote, something of value that he brought to the table, Kanye, in the sense that a hamburger laced with cyanide might include a slice of tomato that could potentially contain a few healthy vitamins or something. In other words, while it's true that nobody is all bad and we can find something positive in anyone, obviously some people believe and do things so horrible and destructive, like genocide, that it justifiably overshadows things like making the trains run on time or whatever. Also, I can't think of anything of value that Hitler brought to the table that you wouldn't be better advised to get from another source. I mean, he said German youths should march more miles and drink less beer, but I doubt we need to go to Hitler for that sort of advice." It's very true. And then he kind of says something here. "I think mental health aside, there's also some bad reasoning going online," which of course there is about this, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do a video on this. But I really agree with what Donald Robertson is saying here. And this is obviously, for those who don't know, he's a really well-known Stoic author. But it's true. It's like, if you have like a hamburger and it's mostly bad, even if it's poisonous, you're not going to really care that there's a little bit of vitamins in the tomato. And that's kind of what he's referring to when we talk about someone like Hitler. And I'm going to get into what evil really means later on. But this kind of idea that, like, yes, there's good in everyone, and everyone has done something positive for the world. It's like, if it's 99.999% bad, and then the other very small amount is actually good, should we even really be talking about that little bit of good? And then the other point that Donald Robertson brings up, which I really like, is that just because they do something good, it's like, did we need to get that from them? Is that something that's really original to them? It's like, if Hitler, it's often said Hitler loves dogs, to kind of support the idea that there's a little bit of good in everyone, which there is, of course. But it's like, do we really need Hitler? Is he the first one? Did he come up with the idea that we should be kind to animals, period? It's like, no, of course not. So I really like that point by Donald Robertson. And so let me go in a little bit. Let me get back to the article here. So let me see okay, so he said, "I love everyone. Everyone, And then, of course, so as they're going to the commercial break, Alex Jones says, or rather, Ye says, Jones says that Ye had a Hitler fetish, and Ye responded, "I like Hitler." And, maybe that was a joke, maybe not, who knows. But I certainly think that if you're a public figure, you need to be really careful how you say certain things. And when you say something like, "I like Hitler," when you say you like anything, what does that mean? When you say you like something, normally it means it's something that you aspire to be like. You value something that it actually is. It also implies a net good for the world. Like, if you would say that you like a certain person, normally you think that they're a force for good, not that they're a force for evil, unless you're motivated by those same very things. And so I don't think that was a very smart thing to say, which I know is obvious. I know everyone's like, of course, it's not a good thing to say that you like Hitler, but even if you break that down to a philosophical idea, it's like, if you like something, it means you aspire to be it. There's something of value there. And again, even if you like the tomato, that doesn't mean that you have to like the burger that's filled with cyanide that's going to kill you. And so obviously that's just a horrible thing that he said. And he also said, right here, that he does not like the word evil next to Nazis after Alex Jones pushed back on some of the assertions. He said, I love Jewish people. I also love Nazis. And Alex Jones laughed in response, saying, well, I have to disagree with that. And I thought that was kind of funny because here's Alex Jones. He's often seen as like this guy that's just completely outrageous. And, you know, I think he's gotten a few things right, but he's gotten a lot of terrible things wrong. And so it kind of gets back to that thing where, well, you know, what percentage of good versus bad are you putting into the world? And this isn't about Alex Jones, but I did think it was kind of funny that that even Alex Jones was like, actually, no, I kind of disagree with that, that it was that outrageous. And so let me get my notes over on this screen for myself. So Ye doesn't like to call Nazis evil. That's what he said, right? And this is an important philosophical question because we could say, well, what does evil really mean? Obviously, the Stoics thought that evil was just out of ignorance. They thought that if you were evil, if you were doing something viciously, the opposite of virtuously, and you just didn't know any better. You weren't taught right. And the reason why this makes sense is because obviously, if you think about it logically, we all want to flourish, right? We all want to be happy. We all want to live great, productive lives and give back and really just be happy, to flourish as an individual. That's what we all fundamentally want. And so when the Stoics say that you're evil out of ignorance, what they mean is that why wouldn't you want to flourish? And so if you're acting in a way that doesn't allow you to flourish, clearly you just don't know any better. You were taught wrong. You're on the wrong road. Your direction is just off. And so that makes sense, right? But if that's true, and people are acting evil and suffering because of it, because here's a newsflash, if you're acting viciously, you're not in a healthy mind state and you're not happy, you're not flourishing. Obviously, Hitler was not a flourishing individual, and they simply got it wrong. Is that true? And this is the philosophical point that I wanted to talk about here, because this is very interesting. So I deem that idea by the Stoics philosophically true, meaning if you adopt that philosophy, things seem to work out better for you. If you go out in your day-to-day life and you assume that people mean well, that they want to flourish, and that if they're doing something that's not right, normally they just don't know any better, that is a pretty damn good assumption to have. And the reason is because it allows you to have compassion for other people. It allows you to fundamentally love the divine spark within each and every person, which the Stoics talk so much about. So in other words, if it's philosophically true, it means if you adopt that into your philosophy as a way of life, things seem to be better for you and the rest of the world. And I do think that it's better for you to assume, generally speaking, that people mean well and that they're just taught wrong. However, I don't think that this is literally true. I don't think that this is actually true. And this is a very interesting point when we come to things like truth and untruth, which Nietzsche spoke much about, who's not a Stoic, by the way. And I need to make that clear because I'll get pushback on that. But here's a great example. If someone is rude to you on the street, it's better to assume that they just don't know any better, that they're not purposefully trying to hurt you, that their direction is wrong, because what's going to happen is they're going to be rude to you and they're going to feel bad about that later, and then that's putting them into a spiral of basically suffering. Whereas if you know better, you're going to do something good and feel good about it, and then that leads to the flourishing lifestyle. So that's obviously what the Stoics thought. But again, is that literally true? I don't think it always is. I think you can become so toxic, so bitter, so resentful that you actually do mean harm in the world. You don't want people to flourish. You don't want yourself to flourish. You just want to destroy. You want destruction, essentially. Take school shooters, for example. It's hard to argue. It'd be really hard to argue that these people essentially want the best for themselves and for the rest of the world, because they literally shot up a school and then killed themselves. And so it's really hard. It'd be really hard to make that argument. And that's what resentment causes you to do. If you give into resentment, if you allow yourself to become bitter, you end up very, in a simple phrase, you end up nihilistic, but you end up in a place where you just want to destroy everything. And that is evil in my mind. So it's philosophically true in my mind, again, in my opinion, that people are evil out of ignorance, but it's not literally true. It's not actually the case. In Hitler's case, obviously, it's very clear to me that he was so toxic and resentful that he was purposefully causing chaos and destruction throughout Europe and in the whole world. And I think that is the actual definition of evil. Put it like this. What's good? What's good? Well, good is adopting responsibility to make the world a better place, okay? What's evil? Evil is adopting responsibility to make the world a worse place. Which of those two things did Hitler do? Obviously, he did the latter. In fact, here's an interesting idea as well. Peterson has a lecture, Jordan Peterson has a lecture where he mentions that maybe Hitler's goal, maybe he actually won the war, because if you think about what Hitler did, he basically destroyed Europe. There's chaos everywhere. What if that was his goal? What if his goal wasn't actually to win the war? What if his goal was actually to just destroy Europe so he could be king of the ashes? And again, that's really aligned with what school shooters do. It's like they don't want to be king of anything. They want to destroy everything and be king of nothingness, of that emptiness. And so maybe that's what Hitler was actually trying to do. It wasn't to win the war and have world domination. No. He wanted to destroy. He wanted destruction. He wanted chaos. And that's a very scary thought. But to get back to Ye, yes, Hitler was evil by that definition. And the Nazi philosophy was also evil by that definition. One last thing he said there. He said he loves Nazis. I define love philosophically. I don't think about it as a feeling. I think about it philosophically as voluntarily adopting responsibility so that you and others can flourish. It kind of gets back to what good is, because love and good are really the same thing in many ways. So there's actually a conflict here, because if you want the Nazis to flourish in Stoicism, you would have to teach them virtue. I'm going to say that again. If you want the Nazis to flourish, if you have love for the Nazis in the way I just defined it, you want them to flourish and be happy, you would have to teach them how to be virtuous. And so if you're going to do that, that conflicts with their philosophy. So if you actually love Nazis, you have to remove them from the philosophy and make them not Nazis, because their philosophy is actually evil by the Stoic definition. And so again, through a Stoic lens, yes, we have to have love for all mankind, in that we want everyone to flourish. We want everyone to live a happy, flourishing life. But the problem is that the Nazi philosophy is anti-flourishing. It's completely against the Stoic philosophy. And so, in fact, the Stoic perspective is that we still have to have love for them in the sense that we want them to flourish, in the cosmopolitan sense that we're all part of the cosmos, but that we do indeed need to fight Nazis and their evil philosophy, because it's in direct contradiction and in direct conflict with the Stoic view of how the world should be. So I wanted to react to this because the world's kind of going crazy about this right now. There's a lot of irrational ideas online, and I'm hoping to give kind of a balanced perspective and break down what some of these ideas actually mean, because obviously there's a little bit of truth in what Kanye said, but it's like a small amount of truth. Yes, everyone has good in them, but if they're 99.999% evil, do you really respect the person if they're that much, toxic and resentful and bitter and just want to destroy the world? Is that someone that you really want to respect? As always, I think we need to reduce division, and I think the best response to terrible ideas like Ye's is actually to fight them with better ideas, and so that's what I hope to do. And again, shout out to Donald Robertson, who posted that tweet, which I really liked, and I thought that was really rational. And I think we all need to do that. We need to use our rational divine mind that the Stoics gave us in order to fight bad ideas such as the one that Ye just had.